You see, we trust what we worship, and we worship what we trust. Every single person in this room is a worshiper. And you have to ask yourself, who am I going to worship? What am I going to worship? Many people worship money. Many people worship themselves. Many people worship a status or some type of feeling. And I will tell you, listen, if we want to pursue that, then we really become the object of our own worship. But when we place our faith and our trust in God, and by the way, it is only through faith in Jesus Christ that we come into a relationship with God. We're so thankful for many in the first two services who placed their faith in Him. But I want to remind you what Charles Spurgeon said. He said, "A little faith will bring your soul to heaven, but great faith will bring heaven to your soul." There's a pastor in New Mexico. He put it this way: worship and worry cannot coexist in the same heart. So there are 4 reasons to worship Jesus in the midst of an anxious generation, in the midst of lots of reasons to worry. There are 4 reasons to worship Jesus. I want to give you the first one, and it's this: Jesus supplies joy. Can you say that with me? Jesus supplies joy. Jesus is the source of joy. He says in verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord." And by the way, that's a command. It's written in the imperative. Can I ask you to think about something? If Jesus commanded us to rejoice, doesn't that mean it's possible? Doesn't that mean no matter what your circumstance is, you can rejoice? Now, what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying ignore your problems. I had someone send me a video this week, and they said, "Hey, listen, this is my takeaway from all of your messages, that you just ask people to add a little Jesus to their problems and everything will be better." That's not the right takeaway, okay? But this was the video. They sent me, they said their check engine light came on, so we just put a little statue of Jesus over it. He's just focusing on Jesus. Well, you might want to focus on getting your engine fixed too. So we're not saying ignore your problems. We're saying put your problems into context. And we put our problems into the context of the proper place that we're rejoicing in. We're rejoicing in the Lord. We've talked about this word rejoice a lot. It's the word for delighting in God's goodness rather than in our circumstances. And so Jesus is the ultimate source of joy and true lasting joy. And so we must remember that God's goodness is ever true and never failing. And we must choose to rejoice in Him instead of our circumstance. This is how David said it in Psalm 37:4. He said, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." It does not mean that everything you've ever wanted will come to pass. It means that He does a desire transplant. He instills His desires, and His desires become your desires. And so we're to delight in Him. Max Lucado, in his book, The Applause of Heaven, put it this way: "The joy of God is not dependent on what happens to us. It is supernatural joy that God promised, and unshakable and eternal." The psalmist put it this way in Psalm 16:11. "Thou shalt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand are pleasures forevermore." That almost sounds too good to be true. Pleasures forevermore? I mean, not halfway joy. The fullness of joy? Like the path of life? Everyone wants to know the path of life. Like, is that too good to be true? And sometimes people, they'll hear verses like this and they're like, you know what? That's just butterflies, rainbows, Skittles, and unicorns. Like, that's not real. That's just the silver lining. That's a rose-colored lens that you're looking through life. And I want to tell you, the Christian life is not ignoring the brokenness, the sorrow of death, the grief we all experience, the difficulty of living in this broken world and living in a world that God did not design this way. God's design was perfection, and sin entered the world and corrupted His all design. So we're not living life like Emmett from the Lego movie. Remember him? Everything is awesome, you know, when it's really not, right? Like everything. No, it's not. It's not all awesome. Some things are awesome, but some things aren't. Do you understand? Like, let me speak to the older generation in the crowd. Peter Pan, okay? We grew up with Peter Pan, and what did he say? He said, just think happy thoughts. You want to fly? Just think of a wonderful thing, any little thing, right? You know this. And with a little faith and trust and what else? Pixie dust, right? Even all your dreams can come true. Even your dog can fly. Remember the dog? The dog started floating, right? Dog wanted to go to Neverland. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about waving a magic wand. We're not talking about making all of your problems go away. What we are saying is, hey, there's a deeper joy that outlasts your problems. There's a deeper joy that transcends all of the pressures of life. And it's the joy that does not come from your circumstance or your experience. It's the joy rooted in Jesus. We are intentionally placing our thoughts, our hopes, our reason for joy in the person, presence, and promises of Jesus.